Barry Bonds, Mike Piazza. I mean, we're talking all these celebrity baseball players are there. And they're all pointing at me. He goes, those are the guys. So because me and Domingo, we were at this event, and at the dinner, everybody's walking up. Goes, you guys were just on TV. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Hey, I'm Mike Ungaro, and welcome to Fish Factor. I'm the CEO, visionary, and business co-owner of the Kings of Fish TV series on Amazon Prime and the legendary San Pedro Fish Market. Under my leadership, we saw double-digit annual sales growth for over a decade and became the second most visited seaside attraction on the western seaboard, second only to SeaWorld. On this channel, you'll get an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to run a multi-generational business that's been operating since 1956. The highs, the struggles, and the unique challenges of working with family. You'll see firsthand what it takes to keep a seafood empire thriving while also producing our TV series, Kings of Fish, which you can watch right here on YouTube and on Amazon Prime. Hi, this is Mike Ungaro. Welcome to Fish Factor. All right, here's the catch of the day. On today's episode, I'm joined by Wing Lam, owner of Wahoo's Fish Taco, a popular fast casual chain that blends Asian, Brazilian, and Mexican flavors. And when I opened my own restaurant way back in 2004, it was a total disaster. I was desperate to learn and get better at running it. And that's when I heard about a free business breakfast hosted by a local news station. And one of the speakers, Wing Lam. So I showed up just to meet him. We connected. We shared he has shared some incredibly helpful advice. And we have stayed in touch, but for the most part, ever since. So Wing, welcome to Fish Factor.
Hey, always happy to hang out with a fellow fisherman. So Good to see you.
Yeah. No, it's great to have you here. Do you remember that story? I mean, I've told so many people about it. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about what I was doing there that day.
All I remember is you had a pretty amazing place, and then I'm looking at you, go, what do you need me for? I mean, again, from the outside perspective, we all seem to know what we're doing. On the inside, we're like, what the hell is going on, right?
Yeah.
But it's always fun to share good and war stories with your fellow, business, cohorts, right?
Yeah.
And it's always fun to kind of get a different perspective to realize that one, we're not as bad as we seem to be, or we're not as good as we think we are, right? So you get humbled very easily.
I will share what was going on because it was probably 2004 or 5, right? So it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I had left my family business to try out my own. I think I can do this. Miserable failure. Yeah. And I went to that. I think it was KFWB. They had like a power breakfast, and you were on stage, and the founder of 99 Cent Store was on stage.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. I remember that. Yeah. It was an amazing experience. Yeah.
There was another gentleman. I don't remember his name. I didn't catch it because I wasn't paying attention. I was really focused. My point was I just wanted to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you because I'm a fan of what you do. And I wasn't connected to my family. I had said, I'm leaving. I'm doing my own thing. I'm on my own. I got an equity in my house. I'm going to open this restaurant. I have an idea. I believe in this. I made a lot of mistakes. And I remember on stage, one of the speakers said something, and it stuck with me ever since. He goes, in every book, autobiography or biography about a successful business person, there's a chapter right in the middle that says, and then I lost everything.
Yes.
And I was sitting there in the audience going, oh my God, please don't let that be me. And it totally was. I just couldn't see it at the time. And so everybody left, and I was kind of amazed. All these people are still on stage. You were still there. And there was an opportunity to meet people, network. And everybody said, well, my free breakfast is over. I got to go back to work. And they all left. And I remember I ran up, gave you my card, and I go, I don't know you. I have no money. I can't offer you anything, but I need help, and I'll be obligated to you in the future if there's something you can offer me. And then I think I left, and I sent you an email. I figured out, and again, there wasn't social media at the time, so I didn't know how to. You had to go online and try to find. I think I found the Wahoo's website, and there was a link to your email, and I sent you an email, and you called me at my restaurant right away, and you gave me all kinds of great advice about marketing and this and that, and then it was super helpful. It kind of shifted the way I thought because I realized at that point I really like marketing, but I don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And it turned out it really became my favorite part of the business, and where I needed to be strong in finance and operations is where I was really weak, and why it was a tough endeavor for me. Then I went back for work for the family, and eventually I found you again on social media, and that's where we kind of reconnected and had lunch that day at my place, at my family's place, San Pedro. Yeah. So that was what's going on in my background, and that's why I was like, man, it's rare that somebody reaches out and actually offers relevant, legitimate help to somebody. It's like, this guy is a different beast in a good way. So thank you for that.
Well, I've always had this thing about, I think there's something about, genuine help on both sides. And it didn't seem like you were, quote unquote, blowing smoke behind me to say, oh, you're, whatever. You were like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Maybe we can, share some insight, I call it, right?
Right.
And the funny part is we're not that different. That's what I kind of figured really quickly. We're both family, heritage and all that, but we kind of wanted to go out on our own, which we very similar. My dad was very successful, and at some point, he said, hey, do you want to take over the family business? And all of us brothers like, nah, we don't want to be the SOB, right? The son of the boss.
Yeah.
Because one, we're never going to get any respect. Everybody's always going to say we inherited the business anyway, and we're always going to be fighting this uphill battle about everybody that's ever worked for our parents because
Yeah.
we're not going to get any recognition, right? Anything that, no matter how hard we work, we're always going to have the inheritance tagline attached to our name. So
Yeah.
we're very similar in that sense. And the other part of it is also that of all the things that I end up doing, like you're doing as well, the marketing part of our business, it wasn't by choice. It was by need.
Necessity. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if we can't get people to come to our restaurant, it's not that we're making really bad food and all that. I mean, you had an amazing concept. I had an amazing concept. But that doesn't mean anything until people start buying it, right?
Yeah.
So I took one marketing class in college, and all I remember a few things. Hey, create a monopoly, do this, supply and demand, all these things. And I'm like, okay, what does that really mean in real life? Means you got to stand out. What is unique about your proposition? Like, what are the things that will separate you from the rest of the guys in our category, right? So little by little, I started finding things that goes, ooh, I can wave this little flag, or I can try this other flag and see what would work. So by trial and error, really quickly, because like I said, if it didn't work, we had to move because that means it's another day of business that we don't have, right? So it wasn't like in school you have another chance to do better in school. This is it. This is life. This is money. This is payroll. This is survival. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like survive, sink or swim for me. So when you approached me, I kind of saw a little bit of that. And I said, hey, I'm just a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
I'm not any smarter than you. I just been doing it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So let me share some insights of what worked for me. And you decide what works for you. Somebody goes, man, what Wing is doing here, good, but not going to work for me. But this one, I may try it, right? So it's all about, hey, here's my story. See what works for you. See what doesn't work for you. There's no right or wrong because depending on how you use it, right? Things may work, say it may not work, right? So the world is about sharing experiences, and then you got to decide for yourself what works and what doesn't, right?
So good.
So I don't preach, I tell stories. And most of the people that are in the audience of all the events that I've been to, luckily for me, they're like, that's good. But what would happen if I did it this way? Well, either you're going to make more money or you're going to lose more money. But one way or the other, it'll work better or worse, right? But then your ability to adjust and fine tune how it works for you better,
Yeah.
because if it's not working, pivot, keep
Yeah.
moving, right?
The key.
So to me, like when I saw your operation, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? But it worked for you because you had a destination, you had a pier, you had this, huge space. So things that you were doing, I'm like, I can never do that because I don't have, seating for 1,000 people, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is amazing. I'm super, super happy that I met another successful guy. And hopefully he can use and apply some of the theories, some of the stuff that I've tried. Some of it hopefully will work better for him. Some of it may not work for him, right? And then, but I've always watched and I've always followed. And I'm like, this is awesome. He's still here.
You know what I was thinking about as you're saying that is I remember before we met, I'm trying to know when it would have been. You probably would know. I saw you on your brother's, I think, like an American Express commercial, and I
Oh,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I was asking you about. And you're like, yeah, it was about recycling.
yeah.
and something. And I was like, how'd you do that?
Well, because what happened was, I mean, long story again, when it was a Merrill Lynch commercial, but everybody to this day thinks it's an American Express commercial, which
It's
is, I
funny.
mean, good for us, bad for Merrill Lynch. But at the time, basically, when they went out and asked, because Merrill Lynch through the before I guess the 2000s, right? They were very much known as a very conservative investment group. Like the JP Morgans of the world, all that. So basically, if you're not a white collar company, they weren't really interested in your business.
Hmm.
But there's began this shift with all of us ethnic, different businesses and different ethnicities, and more blue collar, right? And this whole action sports, all the stuff that was different than a traditional white collar, very, like real estate, stuff like that. So they went out and they wanted to get away from just being a super conservative investment group to
Hmm.
more of like, hey, we're here for everybody. And then their campaign tagline was the American Dream,
Hmm.
right? And what is the American Dream? Well, doing what you want to do is really what the American dream is about. Like you have an idea and then bringing it and making a business out of it, right? So when they interviewed about 700 applicants or more, right? It got down to about 30, and they called my kid brother Ed. It just happened to be, his day to pick. He was in the office. He picked it up. He started talking to them, and they're like, "So I don't get it, right? What makes you guys so unique? You make fish tacos, right?" And basically, my brother Ed goes, "Yeah, but where else in the world can a Chinese guy sell Mexican food? This is the American dream." And the guy on the other end goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Look at the bio, the pictures."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he goes, "Oh my God, there's three Asian kids selling fish tacos.
Yeah.
Where else can the world can this happen? In America."
Yeah.
But not only that, we recited back the tagline to them without knowing that that was the campaign.
Oh, really?
So like talk about like all the things falling into place. So when it got down to it, from 700 and something applicants down to about 3 dozen, down to 5 or 6, we were
Wow.
one of the 5 or 6. So they come out, they shoot the commercial with us, right? And we recite the tagline, we do this, and then they went out and start testing the ads, to see how people liked it. Back in those days, they actually did, testing, right? They would do audience and hey, what do you like better? Of the 6 or 5 companies that were featured, we had the best like response engagement, right?
Hmm.
Because it was interesting because oh my God, there's 3 Asian kids selling Mexican food. Come on, where else can you do that in America? This
Yeah.
is the tagline, this is the dream, this is the campaign.
Wow.
So imagine somebody, I mean, from a marketing perspective, here's $100 million campaign for the next
Wow.
2 years. We
Wow.
ended up with over half of it.
No
So
kidding.
imagine if somebody go, Mike, here's $50 million to promote your restaurant. The numbers went through the sky
Wow.
because all of a sudden we're on national TV.
Yeah.
We are on newspapers, we're in magazines, we're in direct mail. I mean, there was a point about 4 months after the campaign started in January of 2020. I happened to be going snowboarding on my national championships. I'm at the airport, and all the magazine racks. It was Sports Illustrated, GQ, uh, Architecture. Every magazine had a full page ad with our faces in it.
Oh my
We were
God. I didn't know that.
Oh my God, I still have some of them. I mean, Time Magazine. I mean, just, it was ridiculous. And each page is like $10,000, like $50,000. We're like, how in the hell? So to be 2 pictures of us, like one of the Wahoo's line, one of the three brothers walking on the beach, and the dialogue of what the script of what was it being in the commercial about the American dream.
So I brought this up without knowing any of that. I just remember seeing you on TV and you mentioned, yeah, you got to get to know these people and put yourself out there. And I was like, okay, whatever. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how big it was.
It's kind of like surf food as opposed to Mexican food. We're actually in the back of our main corporate office. Dad was our original investor into the company.
He goes, this is my retirement money you guys are playing with, so make it count. Now that we're growing, what we ran into is a lot of red tape. That's why I leave all the banking to my little brother Mingo. See, he's got the short hair. That's where Merrill Lynch has stepped up. Dom found us the right people at Merrill to help us out.
They saw past the shorts and t-shirts.
Where else in the world can a Chinese guy sell Mexican food? If this isn't the American dream, I don't know what is.
So being on a national commercial, basically from a local perspective, right? Because we don't care about somebody in Minnesota, but from here, everybody goes, "Oh my God, the Wahoo guys are on national TV. This is not local, cable. This is national ABC, NBC during the Super Bowl, during March Madness, during the final. I mean, this is absolutely the most expensive airtime that people could buy. We are like, these are $500,000 30-second commercials now.
Wow.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, it wasn't just every day you saw it. You saw it for 2 years. World Series. I mean, you named the two things that were happening around the world. Kentucky Derby. I'm not talking major sporting events. There comes this little commercial.
So what did that look like to you guys? I mean, outside of like, oh my God, we're everywhere. What did it do to your brand? Like,
it is skyrocketed, because from that, it took us from like all the local awards shows, meaning Ernst and Young. We won every award possible, because these guys must be something, right? And so it made our little, at the time when it came out, I can remember we only had 13 stores.
Yeah.
But he made us look like we were McDonald's, right?
And 13 is a lot of stores, by the way. I mean, 13 is not like something to just, like pass by. I mean, that's an accomplishment in of itself.
Yeah. But I think to me, the most, I call it coolest line in the world was the weekend that it happened, the first time the commercial came out in public. It happened to be in the wild card playoff, which is the first weekend in January for the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being at a celebrity event in Palm Springs when it came out. It was the Pepsi All-Star Celebrity Charity Golf Tournament, right? And when I came out from, the golfing day, going into the dinner, all of these baseball players had like, "Oh my God, you are a celebrity." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "I just saw you on TV." And I'm like, I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, the CEO of Taco Bell was Peter Waller. Peter walks up to me because, Pepsi, Taco Bell, they're all the same at the time. We're all right. Peter walks up to me, introduces himself, and his line was, "You just stole my line." And I'm like, "Okay, how did I do that?" He goes, "I used to be able to tell everybody, only in America can a British guy sell Mexican food." He was from England.
No way.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because I just saw your commercial. So you're a Chinese guy selling Mexican. I'm a British guy selling. And he and I became friends. The CEO of Taco Bell was there.
Wow.
And that's how I found out that our commercial, and literally Barry Bonds, Mike Piazza, I mean, we're talking all these celebrity baseball players are there. And they're all pointing at me. He goes, "Those are the guys." So because we were at this event, and at the dinner, everybody's walking up, goes, "You guys were just on TV." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because we hadn't seen the commercial yet. But it came out on the weekend of wild card playoffs. And literally looking back, the rest is history, because it leveraged us into all these opportunities. Articles, local TV. I mean, this, because people said, "Well, you're a celebrity because you're on TV." So whether you like it or not, once you're on the big screen or the little screen, you're automatically become a celebrity, right? And I looked at it, I go, "I make tacos. I know what you're talking about." But the public perception is different than reality.
Yeah. I had for a long time a business mentor teacher, and he would say, "I'm really, really good. I've got all this attention, but just not quite good enough where people are throwing money at me." But that story you just told was practically what that was. But the thing is, Wing, it's like, you have this great opportunity, but you still need the structure in place to leverage it. Otherwise, it just kind of 2 years later and it would go away. So how did you leverage it? Like, what do you think you guys did that made it work for you?
We basically, I leverage it by doing two things, right? Is at the time, and this is all behind the scenes stuff. There was, Merrill Lynch would never put anybody from their company in the commercial. But in the commercial, we happen to want to, they say gratitude to the guy that happened to be our, broker at the time.
Yeah.
So we mentioned in the commercial, hey, we want to thank our broker, blah, 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 part of this whole campaign. Well, within a few weeks of the commercial airing, the broker is getting pitched by all the other houses that, hey, come on over, because if you can do this for Wahoo's, you should do, for our clients, right? So he literally got a brand new 911 Porsche as a signing bonus to jump ship.
Wow.
Right, to another company. And he's hoping that we're going to jump ship with him. And basically, Merrill Lynch, very nice, he said, if you jump, you guys are done with the commercial. We're going to stop airing it because we're not going to let the other brokerage companies say, hey, we stole these guys from you, right? So we said, well, I think we ought to stick around, right?
Yeah.
We made the right choice, right?
Yeah.
So then they had to assign us another broker. So they assigned us another broker. And this is, I can't make this stuff up because it's unbelievable. Of all the people they could assign to us, I've only met one black, financial advisor in Orange County, because there aren't that many, right?
Yeah.
And Sanford was my guy. So he gets in, goes, hey, I got to sign your account. I'm like, Sanford, let's go have fun. He goes, what does that mean? He goes, I'm getting invited, me and my brothers, to every gala, every business, everything that you can think of. I'm not even having to buy tickets. I'm getting invited, right? Because they want me to kind of show up because I'm a celebrity, right? They want to ask me about the commercial. So I go, Sanford, would you like some clients? He goes, I would love some clients. He goes, let's go fishing, right? And Sanford would come with me, and literally he was cherry picking guys at every event possible, because people were like, well, what's the deal? Nobody realized that he wasn't the one that put us on TV, but he was my Merrill Lynch guy, because the other guy was already gone.
He stepped into the seat.
Within 2 years of doing this together, he had so many clients, he left Merrill Lynch himself to start his own agency. Because he goes, why do I need to split the commission with the house when I can get 100% of it, right? And so I helped us together. We launched the original broker's career. We launched Sanford's career, right? Because we're all still friends after all these years, right? So we took this opportunity. And then one of the things that happened was the Ernst & Young Awards happened a year later in 2001. And I'm like, in the restaurant hospitality category, we were going up against some big restaurant chains. I'm like, there's not a chance in hell we're going to win this thing.
Yeah.
Because of the commercial, we do. We beat out some pretty big guys, right? I'm not going to name them who they were, but they were literally 3 to 5 times our size.
Wow.
So we win this award. And who is the MC of the event? Ed Arnold, who's a retired sportscaster from ABC, NBC, or whatever, and KTLA.
Yeah.
And he hosts a show, Rio Orange, on PBS, and he and I became friends. He goes, I'd love to have you on the show. And everybody goes, you're not supposed to talk to the MC. I'm like, why not? I'm a celebrity, right? So he's so we become lifelong friends. And here's the thing, again, so we go from going to charity events and these events where 90% of them were hosted by Ed Arnold, right?
Wow.
So Ed at every event is giving me props. Like, oh my God, and we have my buddy Wing here, and we have my buddy, and everybody goes, Wing is here. So all of a sudden I went from attending events to people knowing that I'm attending these events, right?
Wow.
Because the MC of all these events, we're talking once a week. This isn't like once a week, I'm getting plugged. And of course, when you're being noticed, the magazines that are covering these events can help to take a picture of you because I'm with the MC, right? So this whole thing kind of, like you got to be in the moment when the pictures are being taken, but I'm not asking to be in. I just happen to be there. And everybody goes, well, Wing's here. We got to make sure we cover to make sure that, whatever the charity or whatever the event is gets credit, and they're going to capture more images if Wing is in it. So you couldn't pick up a magazine locally for 2 years that I'm in every other page, right? So there'd be 10 events, I'm in half of the events. And people are like, oh my God, this guy's everywhere. because I am basically leveraging, right? Because all I knew that if I'm there, people see me, is going to remind them to come to my restaurant. That's my logic behind all this. It wasn't that I was interested in being in it, but
Yeah.
I can show you magazines from 2000, 2001, and 2, where literally, I mean, every magazine you can pick up,
That is just
multiple pages. And remember, this is editorial, and basically it's free for us. So people are like, "Oh my God, Wing must be a really big deal. Oh, Wing must be a really big." And I'm like, I'm just here, and it was all because everything kind of like, you know. And we say, hey, if you hang out with, you are who you hang out with. So if I happen to hang out with the MCs of all these charity events, because they all hang out together.
yeah.
So Ed would tell one guy, and the other guy would tell the other guy, well, Wayne is friends with Ed. Ed's friends with Mike. Mike is friends with. So at every event, even if Ed wasn't there, one of his friends would be the MC. So automatically I'd be in it, right? So this thing became this like Wing is a machine. And I'm like, Wing is really smart. I go, no, I just met one guy. I
Yeah.
did one thing, and I just, right?
That is
So,
amazing.
and to us, we remind, like every time I see you, it goes, hey, San Pedro Fish Market, right? It is what it is. We get labeled about what we do, right? So everything now, all of a sudden, for the next 2 years, everything's fish tacos.
Yeah, that's incredible. You know, it's funny. I'm pretty sure Ed Arnold's son was my kid's teacher in their school district.
Yes, in Fountain Valley. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like their favorite, middle school and elementary school teacher. I totally forgot about
You see,
that.
but this is the world.
Yeah,
So, I mean, to that point, I mean, literally, when Ed passed away a few months back, right?
yeah.
We had a live celebration private
Oh, wow.
at for just the PBS family, like the people that worked with him before he passed away, right? So we were there, and other than immediate family, a few friends got invited. So there's probably like 40 of us, whatever, right? First thing that I didn't realize that when one of the executive directors from PBS called me for a catering, I didn't put the two and two together. That was I was actually catering the life celebration, which was
Oh,
nice. So my team was there. I'm like, oh my God, that's where they're at, right?
hmm.
Two, we start talking, and you know, a few of the people that worked with Ed right before he passed away got up there and said a few things, and they said, hey, by the way, now we'd like to have Ed's other son, Wing, come up here and say something. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Because I didn't realize how much we did together for the last 25 years,
Hmm.
right? Because we did so many things together. So I get up there and I share some funny stories, right? And how he changed my life. And we started hanging out and going to all these events together, right?
Wow.
So the running joke was he was my carpool dummy because we would travel to LA and I would always be driving and he'd be my carpool, right? But so this, so everybody at the station knew because would refer himself when we would get to these events. And he goes, oh, who are you? He goes, oh, I'm Wing's carpool dummy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know everybody here. But it was the running joke, right? So
Oh, wow.
again, you don't realize the impact that he made in my, life and the impact I made in his, right?
Yeah.
Because he would always ask, well, why do you want to hang out with an 80-year-old guy? And goes, because we're friends.
Yeah.
That's why. So
Yeah.
like me and you, it's like there is really no agenda. You know, if anything, we're competitors, but we're still hanging out.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
a
mean?
good point.
Yeah.
I'm heading to in a few days. I'm going up to Monterey because we're opening a location in Monterey. I have to get the official keys from the city. And my uncle, our founder, who's 82, 83, he goes, I want to go. I'm like, okay. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, you got to go with him. I'm like, yeah. You know the kind of stories this guy tells? Like, if you don't spend time, those stories
Exactly.
go away. And like what you learn about because he was, he's been working. He was one of the founders at age 15.
Yeah.
It goes back. It's going to be 70 years next year. Like, we drove to Monterey a few months ago to sign the lease, and now I get the keys. And we drove that time. And
Yeah.
some of the stories he was telling me about growing up, which I will not share publicly here, but
I
San
know.
Pedro was a different town, like in the 50s and 60s, when it was all military and Navy. And
Yeah.
there was one whole street where all the bars had in the back either had a brothel or you could place a bet. And here's a lot of history there with him and my grandfather that I wasn't aware of until this trip up to Monterey.
Monterey, because you're going to be right there in Pebble Beach.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So when we get to that, it'd be the same thing because there happens to be a great story of a winemaker in your end in Monterey area, right? And it's called Gary Pizzoni.
Oh, okay.
His family's been around. You probably when you Google him, Pizzoni, right?
Okay.
So the family has been known forever to be. He jokes about being, growing cabbage and vegetables and all that. So one day, jokingly, the way he tells his story, he goes, "Guess what, guys? I've never been to a $500 a person cabbage dinner, but there's $500 wine dinners. Nobody
Yeah.
cares about cabbage." So the guy, Gary goes to his dad, goes, like you, I'm sure, one day goes, "Hey, Dad, can I grow some grapes?" And the guy goes, "No." But he goes, "I'll tell you what, on that little part of the property, a little hill, rocky mountain area that
Yeah.
they couldn't grow anything anyway," goes, "Okay, if you want to grow, go over there and you can grow." So
Okay.
luckily, grapes tend to do better when they're stressed, I guess. I know the word, right? Meaning they got to find the vines, they got to find the water and all that, so they produce better grapes.
Huh.
So St. Lucia Highlands is the name of this little hill
Okay.
that he grows world class Pinot grapes.
Yeah. Pisoni. I found
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Gary Pizzoni. So when you get up there, I got to make sure that I bring Gary. Or give me a reason to call Gary. Because, hey, Gary, we're going to go eat some fish.
Okay.
Because you got to have his wines because they're world class Pinot wine. He'd be really a fun local guy. And the family's been there for generations, right?
Yeah. And
But
Tommy, my uncle that I'm driving up with, he actually makes his own wine, and he's won a couple of awards on it too. Like right around the holidays, he disappears for a few days because they get all the grapes and they
yeah,
crush them and they do the
yeah.
whole thing, And
Oh, yeah.
he
Gary's an award winning, not local. I mean, world class.
That's
He's
good
an
to know. I
amazing
didn't know
wine.
that. So when we drove up to Monterey, I said, "Hey, Tommy, have you ever been to Paso Robles?" And he goes, "No." So we stopped and went to Tobin James and a few other
Oh, yeah.
wineries. And he was
Yeah.
completely blown away. I had no idea.
Oh,
Like, how
yeah.
did you never get here before? So, but I'm not driving this time, so I won't have time. Do have a rental in Monterey to go to wineries, though. So,
Also, we'll come up and visit. It'll be a fun little round trip. Besides just golfing, I'll have another reason to go up in your end of town.
awesome. Yeah, we get the keys in a couple days, but then we have to start construction because it's like a 17,000 square foot building that was built in 1956. So now we're finding all the structural issues we got to deal. We went on the building, the city does, so we're just kind of figuring out. But the city has been really good about helping us. I mean, they're supporting us, they're helping us finance, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff because they
That's
really
great.
are looking to bring something new into Fisherman's Wharf. So we're really excited. And what's interesting is I hadn't thought about it until I started like really going back and forth. Is so many of the same families I grew up with that fish in the San Pedro Harbor area also do the same exact thing in Monterey. They just go
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah.
The city council actually asked me on a live city council meeting when they were asking us to explain why we should choose you. The last city council person asked, the very last question, "Are you Sicilian or Italian?" I was like, "You can ask that?" Well, I'm half and half. And then I got two Sicilians behind me that I brought. I didn't know I needed to, though.
It helps. It helps.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is exciting. I have one more question and I'll let you go. So, this has been also, the stories are so great, Wayne. Oh, my God. What would you say of some, like, and it could be linked to something you already shared or something totally different, but what would be one of the most challenging situations you had? Like, you're like, oh, crap, what are we going to do here? And how did you handle it? Like, I'm just curious because sometimes I notice a lot of times. I'll get you a little background. I'm asking that. Inside my family, I'm the crazy visionary. I have all these crazy ideas. We're having a TV show. We're going to do this, and you go, that'll never work in your nuts. That'll never work in your nut. And then what I notice is they're so head down, butt up, stuck in those stories. Sometimes they have to like, do you see where we started and where we are?
Yeah.
Like it actually has been working the whole time. But if we were all aligned, we could have moved a lot faster. So
Yes.
how can we get on the same page? And those are some of the challenges I have. I'm just curious, like family business wise, or whatever story you have, like what you've noticed or dealt with.
Well, the good and the bad is, my kid brother, and by the way, I'm a finance guy, right? So I understand numbers pretty well. So my kid brother early on, Mingo, and I give him a lot of credit for basically saying no. Because when people say yes, I think sometimes it's just too easy, right? So I give him a lot of credit for making me do what I've done to become the person I am. Because early on, I said, hey, we should do a little advertising and da da da. He goes, yeah, but we don't have any money, so you can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then how am I going to get more business? He goes, well, that's your job. Go figure it out,
Yeah.
right? So by the trial and error, right, I learned how to barter with all my neighbors. So then I go, hey, I need a new sign. He goes, well, if you can't pay for it, you better figure out how to trade for it, right? So bartering became a really amazing tool because my kid brother would always say, no, you can't go do that, right? So the other flip side is if you can't advertise, then
Mm-hmm.
you got to be able to find a way to be in the content in the editorial, which is way more interesting, which is what we call now in social media original content, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So people really like original content, interesting stories. So I figured out really quickly, again, sink or swim. I'm like, okay, so I don't have the money. How do I create original content so I can draw people into my restaurant? So, like going back to attending all these events, I'm like, hey, I'm getting invited to come all this, and I'm going to get all the pictures. So I'm creating content, right? So by creating that brand, I've been able to leverage it to where, fast forward, we do a lot of things that are based on content as opposed to buying advertising, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm in the story, I'm doing something interesting. And I always say, I'm still making tacos like you're making, a fish grilled something with shrimp, right?
Yeah.
But it's who are we doing it with and who are we doing it for that becomes interesting because you've done some amazing things. I mean, I see your series. So I've done amazing athletes, amazing celebrities, amazing musicians, right? So it kind of like it becomes interesting. It's not me selling a taco, is a band member selling a taco. But hey, I'm really enjoying this. I'm really hanging out with Wing and I'm having fun. So that has been great. And then going into 2020, I'm like, dude, we're ready now to really, right? And then guess what happens, right? The clock literally was reset to day one of when I started. And all of a sudden, because overnight, from Wednesday in 2020 till Friday, we lost 85% of our business in 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So literally it was like, oh my God, we went back to day one. And all of a sudden it was the same thing. It goes, hey, whatever you're doing, we have zero money to do. So you got to figure out how to do it again. I'm like, oh my God. Because all of a sudden I'm able to spend a little to get a little, right? Now I go back to you got nothing and figure out how to get a lot. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? So accidentally I created with my friend Wendy from KLOS the California Love Drop, right? Where we went out. I first delivered four meals, I mean, four different hospitals in Long Beach with what I had that was going to go away anyway, because we had food prepared. We're
Yeah.
going to throw it away because it's fresh
Yeah.
food. So my brother goes, you can give that away, but after that, you're on your own because we got 85% in the hole.
Yeah.
So I started dialing for dollars, calling all my friends that I'd done charity work with. And I said, hey, what are you doing with that $500 you had set aside for that golf tournament? And I know the answer, zero, because it got canceled. So I
Yeah.
said, can I have it? And I don't want just the money. I want you to come with me so we can deliver meals to hospitals. And they're like, are you out of your mind? There's a thing called shelter at home in place. And
Yeah.
not only are you not at home, but you're going to where they're not supposed to go to the hospitals because that's what I'm doing. So I started going to every local police, fire,
Oh, it's so great.
hospital, and making deliveries. And I said to all my friends, I just need a little bit of money to cover the food costs because I'm broke. And all of us said, we'll pitch in and we'll come with you. And the rest is history. It's become this amazing movement. It's been 5 years. We're still doing it. We
So
do
great.
it now for other charities. We do it for other things. But in the process, I became a partner, not just an advertiser with KLOS, because Heidi and Frank jumped in and became my partners. They
Wow.
gave me the platform to talk about what we were doing. Because, again, the same thing. If people see you, but they don't know what you're doing, it doesn't work. So, having the ability to broadcast to Southern California what I was doing on a weekly basis on Friday on primetime radio, it catapulted me to a whole different stratosphere.
Yeah.
So it was like 2000 happening with Merrill Lynch. Well, 2020 happened with KLOS. And I knew the model. People just got to see you and see that you're doing something when everybody else is sitting at home.
Yeah. It's so
So
great.
I was the only thing happening, right? And Heidi and Frank says, we're going to give you the platform. We're going to create a GoFundMe page for you and ask all of our millions of listeners to donate money to you. And I'm like, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
So they created the GoFundMe. They created all that. And we're like, so I was able to turn the clock back again and get us through COVID. Yes, we did lose a few stores, but we came out of it pretty strong, right? And
Yeah.
now we're ready to, start moving forward. But it's one of those where, you
Five,
always have,
5 years. I mean,
yeah,
not many of us survive. I mean,
yeah,
some are still realizing they're dead and they didn't know it. It's hard to
yeah.
watch. We're just getting our ERTC money like right now.
See?
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Just
So
in
these are the things where, again, if you realize that, it's a team effort, you realize all this, you share the resources. So I managed to save a bunch of my friends' job along the way. I
nice.
got them all involved with us, and we all rode literally together, and we're all coming out of it. And it's been a great, probably the craziest ride of my life, but
That's
and then seeing you a couple of years ago, which I hadn't seen, I'm like, oh my God,
yeah.
you pivoted, you got a store in Long Beach,
Yeah.
and it's been great.
I got to tell you, before we wrap up, you just triggered something for me that when we were talking years ago, you were talking about maintain relationships with the radio guys, and that's it's easy PR because you can barter with your food that way.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you know this, but I did that, and what I kept noticing. And I won't bore you with some of the stories. We'll talk about it another time. But what I kept noticing when I would go on, I was like, this seems like a fun gig to have, this whole
yeah,
radio thing. It clued into me recently as we've been doing these podcasts that I sort of created one by accident without realizing it. So this is like exactly what I was thinking I'd like to do someday. And so to have you on after you sort of triggered that whole narrative around noticing. By the way, I was just on the Fork Reporter recently, Neil Saavedra. He said
oh,
hi.
Neil, love
Yeah.
Neil.
Yeah, I told him I was having you on, and he said, "Make sure you say hi." So he's a
Oh,
great guy.
Neil has been a great friend. So again, whenever he needs something, he'll call me. Whenever I need something, I call him. And again, this is the world that
That
nobody
is
can do us
exactly what
more.
he said, Wing. By the way, it's
Yeah.
like we always back each other up when we need help. Just
Yeah,
more or
and
less.
that's the key to this world. It's just it's not a transaction. It's more of a friendship, and nobody's keeping scores. Nobody said, "Oh, I gave Michael two
Yeah.
more tacos than he gave me, shrimp, whatever." Right?
That's I kind of running out of time, but that was one thing I noticed. So when I saw you at the restaurant when I hosted the restaurant leadership luncheon for
Yeah.
our mutual friend Stephen Rano, and that's where I met Sean Walship, by the way, was that
Okay.
day, which is how this kind of all came to be. As I was participating in some of these different like networking events, I noticed a shift because my experience in the past has been restaurant guys don't get along very well. They're
No.
very like their shield's always up. They don't want to share anything. Matter of fact, when you came to visit me at my restaurant that day, I had invited my entire family to meet you.
Yeah.
And none of them, I don't know if you realize, none of them showed up. And I
Yeah.
found out a few days later, oh, he's only here to steal our secrets.
No, no.
What are you guys talking about? Like, I didn't know that was in their story about other restaurant owners, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, sorry to share that, but I was just like, is that normal? So now, you fast forward and I'm going to all these events and everyone's helping one another out. Now, I was talking to Sean about it, Walsh,
Yeah.
and I'm talking to a couple other people. I go, it seems like the pandemic really softened everybody and they finally realized we can only survive if we help one another out. And it's really shifted the culture of our business. I'm noticing. Have you seen
Yeah.
that?
The thing is, we got to remember. Yes, we're all fighting for the same dollar, but we
Sure.
want people to go out. So at the end of the day, you don't try to kill each other because all we're doing is preventing people from going out. That's really at the end of the day. So for us, I think our worst enemy now are the delivery companies, right? We want people to come to us, not deliver food, whatever, right? So I think that's where, they get the experience when they come to see you, they get all
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And we get a much better average check when they do come in supposed to deliver. So to
Yeah.
us, it's like, let's stick together, get creative, see what everybody's doing to get people out to experience the
Yeah.
really good food because nothing against your food when it travels, but I guarantee you it's not as good as when it's fresh.
It's not the same at all. No.
Yeah. So
I,
that's what I'm all into. Yeah. I'm here, I'm actually excited to go up to Monterey because I need to go on a fun road trip, so whenever,
I'll work it out to be there when you go for sure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and more important, I'd love to introduce you to Pizzoni because I think you're gonna love the guy, and absolutely crazy. He's got long hair. He's a hippie, and he's awesome. You
Awesome.
know,
I love the wine country people up there. They're
yeah,
not what you expect until you meet them and they stand
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Well, we should wrap up. So thank you for being on Fish Factor. This has been I think this might be my favorite episode. I appreciate the time and thank you all for watching. Wing Lam, have a
All
great
right.
day.
I'll see you soon, buddy.
All right. Take care. Thanks for listening to Fish Factor. I'm Mike Ungaro. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. You can also check out all the episodes of Kings of Fish right here. You can learn more about our restaurants at sanpedrofish.com, or you can follow our social media handles at sanpedrofish. And to watch the show and learn more about the show, you can go to our social media handles at Kings of Fish.